Here.
Mr. Catelli?
Here.
Mr. Nicholas?
Here.
Dr. Pascucci?
Here.
And Mayor Hines is absent this evening.
And then we have a citizen service. I understand, Captain Loco?
Yes.
Nada? You guys gonna read this, or you want me to read this?
No, that's.
This is, okay, this is the, go ahead.
Good evening, Township Committee, Chief, and residents. It gives me great pleasure this evening to come before you this evening to present this award to a very deserving young man, Dylan Lynch. Dylan is a senior at St. John Vianney High School in Homedale. On May 20th this year, the Homedale Police Department received a call of a small child, 2 to 3 years old, running around in the roadway on Line Road near Van Brackle. Patrols and first aid were immediately dispatched. At about the same time, 2:20 p.m., Dylan was leaving school, driving to his home in Freehold. While traveling on Line Road, Dylan saw a toddler running in the roadway towards oncoming traffic. Line Road is a heavily traveled road, especially at St. John's dismissal. And for anyone who's ever traveled that roadway, you know there are hills and a lot of sharp turns. Dylan immediately stopped his car and approached the toddler. Dylan was able to corral the child and keep him from possible serious injury or worse, God forbid. The police arrived shortly thereafter. The child's house was located a short distance away, and the child was ultimately returned to his family. While other vehicles did not stop for the toddler, Dylan saw the potential for a catastrophic incident and immediately took action. For his actions on that day, we are presenting Dylan with the Citizen Service Award. Congratulations, Dylan, and great job. Your family, parents, and your sister, could come up also and join me, please?
I'll take pictures, lots of pictures.
Give me yours.
Aw. That's awesome. Yes, I agree. That was really sweet.
So we have okay, sorry. We have a proclamation that we're reading about Mental Illness Awareness Day, and a young student from Biotech High School, Sonia Chain. I believe she's in the audience this evening. Hi, Sonia. How are you? Come on up. You wrote to our mayor, and you requested that this day be acknowledged and recognized by the Township Committee, and I thank you for that. And we have a resolution here prepared, and I will read it on behalf of the mayor and the Township Committee. That whereas mental health is part of an overall health, and whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health problem in any given year, and whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illnesses begin by the age of 14 and 3/4 by the age of 24, And whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and the second leading cause of death among young adults, and 90% of people who die by suicide have an underlying mental illness. And whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the time of symptoms first appear and when individuals get help. Whereas early identification and treatment can make a difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. And whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it is needed. Whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. Whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Mayor Eric Hines, on behalf of the Township Committee, do hereby proclaim October 10th as Mental Illness Awareness Day to shine a light on mental illness and fight a stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for equal care. Sonia, I applaud you, and we all do, and thank you very much. I guess this is... Okay. Green team, you're up.
Hello, I'm Betsy Wilson at 9 Valley Point Drive.
Yes.
I'm one of the members of your green team, along with Sabrina and Janet here. We're here tonight before the committee because we have a modest proposal that will help reduce single-use plastic pollution in our town. I've learned a couple of interesting things lately that I'd like to share with you. First has to do with our county. I telephoned the chief engineer at the Monmouth County Reclamation Center in Tenton Falls and asked him how much room was left in our landfill. He said that we have 5 years left on the current landfill. They've applied to the state for permission to build a new one. A new one would last another 20 years. And after that, the county doesn't have any more land for building landfills. Next thing, my husband and I decided we would have a look at the roadsides in Homedale and see what we could find. So we picked up the litter along South Holland Road and Holland Telegraph Hill roads over a period of about a week. Took 12 bags of litter home. I sorted through it and tallied it, and here's what I found. 129 plastic bottles, 63 plastic bags, 6 straws, and miscellaneous other stuff, which is either compostable or easily recyclable, like metal cans. So here we have it, right here in Homedale, on 2 miles of our roads, 129 bottles and 63 bags. Next, I'd like to turn this over to Sabrina, who's going to say a little more about plastic pollution.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Conlon, and I too am a member of your green team. I wanted to thank the whole entire Township Committee for all your support in helping to reduce single-use plastics through your resolution in the past. And we're hopeful and excited that you're interested in considering an ordinance like many of the other local towns in our area. As we just heard from Betsy, plastic trash can be easily found along the roadsides in Homedale, and Monmouth County landfills is running out of space rapidly. Plastic pollution is indeed a global epidemic. According to the National Geographic, Approximately 18 billion pounds of plastic end up in the ocean each year. Most of this has only been used once and then tossed. This is just the tip of the iceberg. In the United States, we dispose of 100 billion plastic bags per year, over 4 billion of which is from New Jersey. The average bag is used only 15 minutes but lasts nearly forever. Our cities are literally throwing away millions of dollars in costs taking care of the plastic pollution problem, because plastic bags contaminate our recycling streams, they jam the recycling machines. It costs money to remove plastic bags from streets and sewers and parks. And it costs money to collect and dispose of plastic bags in our landfills. Our free plastic bags aren't really free, and they have immeasurable costs when you also weigh the damage to the animals, to the ocean, and to human health. Millions of plastic straws are used and tossed daily, and straws are one of the top 10 marine debris items found in beach cleanups. And styrofoam takeout containers and shipping materials contain the chemical styrene, which has been linked to cancer, vision, and hearing loss. The manufacturing of polystyrene is one of the largest creators of hazardous waste. And styrofoam is very difficult to recycle, and when incinerated, releases hazardous chemicals. So recycling plastic bags, styrofoam, and straws is largely costly and ineffective. Homedale can be very proud of our semi-annual styrofoam recycling that was spearheaded by Betsy Wilson and Victor Stevens. But unfortunately, once the styrofoam touches food, it will not be accepted for recycling. As you probably know, plastic does not biodegrade. It photodegrades, which means it never really goes away. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces, which you've probably heard of, microplastics. Sadly, birds and fish mistake these tiny microplastics for food, and they eat them. Over 1 million animals, from turtles to seabirds to whales, die each year from ingesting or becoming entangled in our plastic trash. Plastics bioaccumulate in the food chain, and we're at the top of the food chain. We do not yet know exactly the effect on human health. Production of plastic has come at a breakneck pace. Virtually half of the plastic ever produced has been produced in the last 15 years. And globally, only 18% of plastic is being recycled. So recycling is only a small part of the answer. What we really need to do is reduce our single-use plastic use. And China banned almost all imports of plastics in January of 2018. They used to be the world's trash can. They no longer have the capacity to take our trash, our plastic waste. So that means massive quantities of plastic now don't know where to go. The United States is struggling with that as well. So unfortunately, recycling plastic is currently more expensive than producing new plastic, partially because China can't take our trash. Also, there's an overabundance of petroleum and just a huge overabundance of single-use plastics. According to the Homedale Township budget, we appropriated an additional $100,000 for the cost of recycling in 2019 as compared with 2018. So again, while recycling needs to be continued, it's more important than ever to reduce our single-use plastics. So where is all this plastic going now? A small amount is being recycled, as I said. Some is being stockpiled in hopes that the markets will open up someday. Some recyclers are getting waivers and sending it to the landfill, and some is being sent to incinerators, some of which are very old and not meant to handle the plastic, so additional hazardous chemicals are going into the air. Clearly, our plastic consumption is unsustainable, unhealthy, and expensive too. So we really cannot afford to continue to use billions of plastic bags each year, straws, and styrofoam takeout containers, because they waste taxpayer dollars, harmful to our environment, and harmful to human health. With that, I'll turn it over to Janet, who would like to talk about a practical solution for Homedale, an ordinance that many other towns near us have already adopted.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'm Janet Jackal, 31 Stony Brook Road. And like Betsy and Sabrina, I'm a member of the Green Team. As they both told you, single-use plastics, and especially the plastic grocery bags, which you see blowing all over the place, creates serious damage to the environment and to our health, and they also have create economic burdens. We know that they show up they're not recycling, but they show up in recycling anyway. And I found out that our neighboring town, Middletown, reported that plastic bags are over 70% of the contamination of the recycling stream. And
Can you get a little closer to
oh,
the mic?
terribly sorry. They're over 70% of the contamination of the recycling stream, and what that does is it creates damage to the whole process, slows it down, costs money. So whether you worry about the environment, your health, the cost, and we worry about all of them, of course, something obviously needs to be done. And the first thing I'd like to say is that Homedale has already taken steps which we really appreciate. There's the styrofoam recycling that Sabrina mentioned, and then there's been a reduction in the number of the plastic bottles that end up in the parks because the DPW has installed some water refill stations so that people use the refillable bottles instead of the ones that they toss. And I'd really like to thank Victor Stevens and Bob Ward who made that happen, put those things in. And also like to thank those of you on the committee because we passed a resolution supporting our campaign to reduce single-use plastic. The trouble is the stuff is still piling up. And we'd like to,
What can we do to help?
what can you do to help? Right. We know recycling isn't going to do the job. It's a good thing to do, but it's just not sufficient, whether it's for bags, styrofoam,
Right.
or whatever. So a lot of towns nearby, and Sabrina made this lovely poster showing what some of those towns are, they've enacted ordinances. They're mostly to restrict single-use plastic. They typically, oh, my bag, thank you, my props. The things they are targeted, they're styrofoam, and then there's these heavy plastic, the heavier plastic bags that are used for carrying out groceries are the ones they target. They don't apply to the ones that you put the meat or the produce in because there's not an easy substitute for those. And they also don't apply to things like dry cleaning bags. But you can always substitute.
We
these
can't
lovely
hear you, Janet.
Local, huh?
We can't hear you.
Sorry, there's a local reusable bags, there are paper bags, and so on. And the big thing is, you don't have to worry about how you dispose of something if you don't get it in the first place.
Did you forward us a sample resolution or a
Yes.
sample something?
We did, and in addition, I have copies if you'd
Can
like.
you just give it to our administrator, Chief Shimanochevsky? Copy of that? Thanks.
These are ordinances from Little Silver
Okay.
and from Fairhaven. So they're towns that are close to us and very similar kinds of demographics. And Red Bank has also put one into, it's not taken effect yet, but they have passed such an ordinance. So what, what we're hoping is that you will look at these ordinances and find a way to enact one that is suitable for Homedale itself. I think we'd all benefit, and the Green Team would be very happy to help you in any way we can.
I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time for coming here this evening and speaking on this. It's important, and I applaud your efforts.
If you have any questions, sir.
You're for me. I don't. Does any of the members of it have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You sign.
Oh, yeah.
The sign. Don't forget to sign.
Sorry.
Let's move personnel. What we have. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to move to personnel. So, Mike, you want to take it? Sure.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Deputy Mayor agreed to move up item number 11 on the agenda to handle here at the front end of the meeting, which is titled Personnel. The first item is a resolution authorizing entry into an employment agreement with John Matuszewski as Chief of Police. The recommendation would be to a motion to approve, incorporating minor amendments as discussed in executive session this evening.
Motion. I'll second that.
Mr. Bontempo?
So the chief has been a valuable asset to the team since I asked him to take on the part-time temporary administrative position since April. So I wholeheartedly support the contract.
Yes. I concur with
I think we roll call vote?
No one called for a roll call.
I'll call for roll call, yes, sorry.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
100% yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes, Mr. Chief Matuszewski has been invaluable this summer and informing us and keeping the Township Committee informed on all matters going on in town, and we thank you.
All right, sure, Deputy Mayor. The second item under personnel is a resolution appointing the township administrator. And again, this is a resolution where we would recommend adoption with the minor amendments as discussed in executive session.
So I will move to appoint the Township Administrator.
Second.
Call for vote.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
So yeah, if I could, I just want to, people that aren't familiar, this process was engaged with a motion we made at a meeting a few weeks ago to hire a outside firm to help us with the sourcing of a new administrator. They received multiple resumes from candidates all over the state, and actually some from outside the state of New Jersey. We held interviews in executive session. We then drew finalists down, and we had them come in and meet with various department heads of the township, and then the members of the township committee then met with them again. This is the second process that I've personally been involved in hiring an administrator. So we did it 6-7 years ago, and again today. I can say with clarity and certainty that this is single-handedly the best candidate that we have ever interviewed, and I'm happy to second the motion to adopt this contract for her tonight.
Any other discussion? All right, so let's call for the vote, and then Joe, Sharon, I'd like to introduce you to the public. Let's do the vote first.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
I see Ms. Roundtree's in the audience, and I'm happy to see you again. I had a very pleasant interview with her probably 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. My issue is the second round of interviews. My fellow committeemen did not respect my request and the mayor's request to reschedule the date because we weren't available on that day. So my apologies for not being able to be in the building to interview a second time. I understand after speaking with senior staff who had the opportunity to sit with you, they were very impressed. So if the staff, who I have a lot of respect for in this building, support you, you have my unwavering support. So yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Since everyone's making comment, I'll make a little comment too. The first meeting where we met Ms. Roundtree, one committee member stayed for part of her interview and left. That meeting was scheduled for at least 2 weeks in advance, trying to get our schedules all together. For the second meeting, I'm a doctor, and I can move my schedule around to come to meetings. Other people can come too. So I'm quite upset that 2 township committee members did not come to that interview. I fully support Ms. Roundtree. I think she's a breath of fresh air for this town, and my vote is yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
It is an honor to vote yes for Ms. Roundtree. Please come forward and Welcome to our home. Joe, come on up, and Joe, maybe just tell the audience a little bit about the process, how we sure. Let's get.
Yes, my name is Joseph Barnett. I'm a longtime retired administrator in New Jersey, presently doing consulting work for a number of municipalities. I think we're doing 4 or 5 right now. And our firm, Government Strategy Group, conducted the recruitment for an administrator for Homedale Township. We had 40-some applicants and an additional number of people that we actively recruited for this position, including Ms. Roundtree, who has an extensive background in municipal management and county management throughout her entire career. So she presently is administrator in a nearby town. So we were able to convince her to come over here to Homedale, and she has found it to be a perfect match also on her side, a wonderful community. Everyone's been very supportive, and we're happy to work with you on this process, and I'm happy to introduce Sharon Roundtree as your new administrator.
Thank you. Sharon, please.
Thank you very much. I want to start by thanking each and every one of you for your support. I am very excited to join the Homedale team. From everybody I've met so far, it seems like a wonderful community. I see a lot of the community members here. I look forward to meeting you in the near future. Can't wait to be on board and join your team.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Maybe one day we have a welcome for our new administrator with the community at the town center. We have coffee and cakes, and the community can come talk to her. So maybe we can
That's, yeah,
arrange that.
let us, we'll talk, and we'll, at everybody's convenience, we'll set up a time and day that, residents can come, speak, and meet with you, and, we'll get that on the agenda.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, so go to the consent agenda, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so the consent agenda as proposed before the committee right now includes resolutions 2019-300 to 2019-316B.
I'd like to call 2019-303 for the discussion.
All right, so it's consent agenda, all items except 303.
And, let's go, should we have the information on the update on the grand, on the turf field at Phillips? The change order?
I have that.
You have it? All right, so just pull it, just so we have.
Go ahead, Chief.
All right, so just pull those two for further discussion.
Okay, so the consent agenda, all items except 303 and 316.
Correct. Move.
Second.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Fratelli?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes. All right, so, Mr. Bontempo, you want the contract for forensic accounting study?
Yes. So at the meeting, the motion was made to hire a third-party independent auditor. The firm that we're hiring is Chief, they're currently doing our auditing, correct?
Correct.
So we're hiring the firm that's auditing to audit us again?
Bob Allison is our current auditor, and he has been, that's who they've selected to do this. I think the terminology is incorrect, forensic, right? It's actually called agreed upon procedures. And what they're going to look at is were our internal procedures followed for any vendor we went into business with.
So I thought the motion was for a third party.
Absolutely correct. So this one needs to be, this is a new motion, I guess, right, Mike? For you guys to vote on.
I'd like to stay with the original motion for a third party. I thought that made a lot of sense.
I'll defer to the attorney. I agree, I understand where you're coming from, so.
Okay, Bill, help me out a little bit. Has our 2018 audit, financial audit been completed?
It's pretty much completed. There's about one or two more things that I have to look at on Friday, but
So yes or no, it has
No,
not?
we do not, it has
we
not
do-
been
We have
filed.
not had it yet?
No.
We do- No, okay. So, we don't have our 2018 audit yet. This is an audit of, or excuse me, a study of inconsistencies in accounting for purchases of this year was the original request to a third party. And my only concern is that we haven't completed 2018, and I don't think.
Well, this is, the agreed upon procedures is not something that the audit would even address. So this is something additional that they're being asked to address for 19, not for 18.
I don't think there's any question there were unagreed upon procedures this year, but, okay. All right, so is there a motion to?
Well, can I make a comment too?
Yes,
before we
of
go there?
course.
I have a couple of things with this. One is, I don't like people auditing themselves, and number two is, I have a question for the professionals, because I know not everyone is honest, and that the number of the figure that we're gonna have them audit above is 3,499. Where did that come from? Because in my opinion, people that are dishonest put a lot of smaller bills in instead of one large bill. How do we address that?
I think the issue came into the dollar figure. I mean, probably if they looked at every single purchase we did, that could run up to probably $40,000 because you're looking at every item.
So where does
So
this?
that, isn't this a forensic account, but wouldn't a forensic account, I mean, I know this is not you, this is not you're not the person that we should be asking this to, but in your opinion,
Usually, on something like this, agreed upon procedures, you're setting a parameter because you do not want to get these bills of $50,000, $60,000 just to look at every invoice, because you have some for $20, $30 in there. There's usually, they pick a number. The number we picked was just below the amount that has to be approved by the governing body for purchase. That way, they can at least cover the majority of the purchases. And I believe what instituted this whole thing was a very large purchase also.
so do you know how that number came about?
Because 3,500 is when it needs approval of the governing body. So what we decided was anything from 3,500 and up, they would look at 100%.
And then who decided that it was going to take place over 3.5 months?
Because at that meeting, it was talked about from January 1st until I came in, and, just when Jeanette and Donna had left. So it was from that period of time.
April 16, 2019?
Yes.
Should we go out to bid at all?